last to fall. I won't shed a tear for them to see. I won't have your name to call, 'cause I will be the last to fall.
With over 24% of the 1.9 billion square acres in America alone, the mountains that so many people call home are also host to some of the most incredible mysteries in the world. The missing, the murdered, strange creatures, unexplained lights, and sightings of unidentified objects. These stories may be strange, they may be sad, they may be odd, but they are mysterious. These are the Mountain Mysteries Gatherings. And now, live from the Pantry Studio, broadcast to all time zones around the world, with listeners of the podcast in the United States, Canada, Germany, Norway, India, the United Kingdom, and more. These are the Mountain Mysteries Gatherings. Now, your host, Chris Slone.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Mountain Mysteries Gatherings. Great way to start it off, isn't it? With me blah, 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 all over myself, yeah. Let me tell you, if that's the worst thing that I've got happen this week, then I'm flying. I wanted to jump on here this time on Tuesday, of course, which kind of seems like it's becoming a habit. It's what I call Patreon Day, because this is the day that people get the early releases for the episodes if you're a Patreon members. And you also on Sundays get to hear Mountain Mysteries Blurs, which we'll have a couple of new ones for you coming up this Sunday. But if you've already heard it, what did you think? Enter stage, I guess that would be left for you. Oh, you see that name? Lorraine Warren. Part 1. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf could be heard. Also, Patreon members cussing me because it's a two-parter. So, why did I do that in two parts? That's a lot of information to digest. Patreon members will get early access to part 2, of course, Tuesday. Everybody else gets part 1 Friday, part 2 Friday. You know, I recorded that interview and I did make a flub. And I'm not going to go back and change it because obviously it's not very important as to when I recorded it. It was very important as to that I recorded it, that we did this. It was done in 2009. I went back and done a little bit of back digging and research, and believe me, if you could see the files that we've got from when we did this radio experiment, and we dealt with things like, we had some great guests, Chris Moon, and a lot of paranormal investigators and things like that back in the day. But the Mountain Mysteries is where true crime meets the paranormal. So I like having, I love doing these things. Where this is concerned, especially with Lorraine Warren. And I think it was last week when we were live and we were talking about it and people were saying, please let us hear that. Let us release it. Been doctored up a little bit because I have grown a lot, not only as an interviewer, but I have grown a lot as a producer, somebody that creates this stuff and edits it and makes it sound good when you're going down the road at 60 miles an hour, or when you're sitting at home cleaning your house. There's no, you got to turn it up there and turn it down there. No, the levels are consistent all the way throughout. That's always been a pet peeve of mine. And the more I've done audio research and research into audio engineering, the more I learned, the better I got, the more, they're all blessings. Excuse me. May 8th, 2021, which was Well, it was on May 8th. I would say last Saturday. At the time of this, it is last Saturday. I cannot thank you all enough for coming out like you did. Um, at I think it did more to help than I thought. Um, if you weren't there was a point that I was standing up in front of everybody talking about April and Tim and Dwayne, and man, it was weird. The shelter lights flickering on and off when I mentioned their names. The wind picked up. I mean, seriously, it went from very calm and kind of still. I mean, a little breeze here and there to, I mean, it was like whoosh. It was crazy. And then, when people proceeded to, grab them a bite to eat and things like that started happening, it calmed down a little bit again. It really is where true crime meets the paranormal. And the whole purpose of that was to help the families and to pay tribute to 3 people that lost their lives. So, I mean, I think that it was a very good thing. We had a great day for it. I personally saw friends I hadn't seen in a while and made some new ones, people that I'm honored to be around. And I saw people that I thought were, well, it was just good to see everyone there. It was. It really was. So, on behalf of the Mountain Mysteries, that's Allie and Arrow and myself and all of us. We thank everybody that showed up. And if you didn't, I really wish you could have. But I also understand things come up sometimes. But you can pay respects in your own way, and I appreciate that too. So, are we going to do another one again? Maybe down the road. I don't know that that'll be a celebration of life as much as the next thing that we've got that we're tossing around and kicking the can on right now is an idea kind of about a Halloween Patreon get together. And we've got some ideas about where we're going to do that. And we're hoping to get some kids out there because we're going to read some scary stories. I don't know who that'll be doing that, but we're going to read some scary stories and stuff. And my daughter's got a few ideas about it, but we'll talk about it later on down the road as we, if we decide that we're going to do it, when and where and all that will be. But Allie had the idea of like a Halloween thing. And I think that would be pretty cool, especially for the kiddos, where we can combine a safe trick or treat. We'll give out little bags of goodies to the kids and maybe do a story time somewhere. And we've kind of got an idea, and you can put 2 and 2 together and figure out where's the best place to read a story and without freezing, well, there you go. But it's her idea, and we're looking into it, and we could very well make that happen. So, man, in the shadows, I should say. In the Shadows with Lorraine Warren. And unfortunately, during that interview, I did not get to speak with Ed Warren because he had passed away in 2006. But Lorraine Warren, who parted this life in April of 2019, when she did that interview, she made all of us feel like we were family. This woman was incredibly beautiful and sweet, had the kindest soul, and she was just full of goodness and warmth and a willingness and an ability to help. I was asked when I thought about doing this initially, somebody said, well, what's going to make this different from Sally, Jesse, Raphael, and Geraldo? Well, number one, I'm not Sally, Jesse, and I'm not Geraldo. I don't give a damn about the cases. I know they happened. Everybody's heard about the cases. I went into this thinking about one thing. Who is Lorraine Warren? In part 2 of this episode, you'll actually hear her say, nobody has ever asked me that question. Because they had Ed and Lorraine on there talking about the cases, which is fine and well. Nothing wrong with that. People needed to know about the cases. But who has not heard of Amityville? Who hasn't heard of the Enfields, the Perrons? Which the Perrons and the Conjuring but that's what the first Conjuring was all about, was the Perrons. And all these other things. And Annabelle, hell, you're talking about the Conjuring universe now. She talks about Annabelle. Excuse me. The one thing she did not want to talk about was Amityville. And I asked her publicist person, so why the hell doesn't she want to talk about Amityville? That case put them on the map. That case made them famous worldwide. He said, I know, but she does not want to talk about it. You mention it, she hangs up, you're done. So I respected that. And I never even brought up 112 Ocean Avenue, which since then it's had its address changed. It's a new look on the house. It's everybody already knows it's 108 Ocean Avenue. So, or whatever it is now, but everybody knows where it's at. It's in Long Island. Now, the similarities between Amityville and The Watcher, which aired, I think it was last week, are uncanny. A lot of people thought it was fake. It's a money gig. It's this. You're always going to have that. And am I saying that The Watcher was a real thing? That I don't know. Am I saying Amityville was? I think there was something going on at both places. Whether it was inspired by supernatural forces or just a guy or a girl who was a creep factor 10 stalker, I don't know. But I do think that there was definitely something going on at Amityville. It's kind of hard to have, and if you're not very familiar with the story, I'll give you a real quick rehashing. It was in November of 74, I think it was, or 72, whatever. You can Google the daylights out of it and find out more information than I can just ramble off the top of my head. But Ronald DeFeo Jr. came into the house. It was 3:15 in the morning, widely believed by police. Got a gun, went upstairs, and whacked 6 family members, his parents and his siblings. So the devil made him do it. Okay. Anyways, this guy goes up the river for like life plus 6. 6 life sentences, 25 years to life, 6 times over. And last I heard, and I'm not, I don't know this for a fact because I've not really looked it up, but I think that he passed away in prison, of course, not very long ago. But he maintained to the bitter end that demonic forces made him do this. Well, I'm not going to discount that. Anyways, that's a lot of negative energy to build up in one place so quickly. It was about 13 months later that the Lutzes, George and Kathy, moved in. They stayed there a grand whopping total of, tell me about it, Johnny, 28 days. And they got the hell out with nothing but their clothes on their backs. They would not talk about what happened that last night because, according to George Lutz, it was way too traumatic to even think about remembering. I've got a tendency that I could believe that. And you learn as somebody when and when not to push the envelopes. And there were people that were trying to interview him that kept saying, what happened that last night? What happened? He got up and walked out. He said, no. He said, I'm not going back there. This is not going to happen again. And I can't blame him. You know, it would have been like me pressing the issue on Amityville with Lorraine. I do know this as to what happened to Lorraine. It changed her and George's life. How do I know that? Because that's what she said in another interview, not with me, but I've watched these people because when I first saw it, I thought to myself, are you serious? Is this really going on? Is that really happening? Yeah, it happened. It surely did. What they claim was she said that, and I quote, that's as close to hell as I hope I ever get. I'm telling you, in the words of Ed Warren, the fairy tale is real. The devil is real. God is real. And we as people, our very destiny hangs on which one we elect to follow. I believe that. And right now, not everybody is on the side that I'm on. I follow God. That's who I elect to follow. Do I always get there? I make mistakes like everybody else every day. But I try to correct them. I try to make amends and do what's right. But what you're going to hear in this first episode is a getting to know Lorraine kind of thing. It's something that, you've heard about, the cases of Amityville and all these others, Annabelle and all that. But now it's time for you to get to know the woman who was a huge part in investigating these things. And through her, you also get a really good idea of who Ed was. Guy was a great guy. World War II, he was a veteran of the Second World War. Joined up when he was 17, actually 16, and well, he got caught and got in a little bit of trouble for that. But they welcomed him back when he was 17, and he was in the Navy and selling, and his ship sank right out from under him. Germans, I believe it was. Anyways, he survived that, came home, and you'll hear all this coming up Friday, or you've heard it now if you're on Patreon. If you're a Patreon subscriber, which again, they get it Tuesday, and you can get on board for as little as $3 a month. That's $3 a month, and they renew it every month, but you get stuff every month for it. You get stuff every week, actually. Between the blurs and the early episode releases, you get a lot for it. And you Patreon members are going to be the first ones to know about the next event. They will probably know at least a few days ahead of time, if not a week or two. But it is, everybody that's on it is, they've always said, look, it's worth the money. Yeah, we'll do it all day long. So again, that's Friday the 14th and Friday, May 21st, part 1 and 2 of In the Shadows, Lorraine Warren, the mountain mystery of Lorraine Warren. And then coming up on the 28th, this is a dandy that's going to hit close to home. There it is. Buried Alive, the mountain mystery of Octavia Hatcher, May 28th, 2001. She was from Pikeville, Kentucky, Pikeville. And the urban legend, wives' tale, whatever you want to call it, goes that I think it was the summer of, don't hold me to it, but I'm thinking around 1895, somewhere in that neighborhood. She had what was deemed to be as a sleeping sickness because that summer was so hot. And you got to remember, air conditioning was not a thing back in the day. That she apparently fainted or something of that nature, or fell asleep and didn't wake up because of, I think it was mosquitoes had transmitted something to her. Anyways, they're thinking, okay, she's dead. They put her, they bury her, hold a funeral for her, bury her. And she wakes up in that coffin. We're talking about primeval fear, primeval. This is at the root of our minds. What is the scariest possible thing you can think of? Amongst them, probably being buried alive, then waking up to discover that you got no way to get out. Somehow, some reason, some way, and I've yet to research all of this. I'm actually going to see if I can talk to some people at an institute that have studied this case far more than I have. They exhumed her and found the lining of the coffin was torn, bloody fingernails. It's a nightmare. I think that's a nightmare for most people. Like I said, it's a primeval fear. That happening to somebody. And I don't get that. But that happened in Pikeville. And I think that they have a monument at her resting place erected in memory of her, which rightly so, I get that. But as you can see, we got a lot of stuff that's coming up and going on the Mountain Mysteries. And we're also letting a family seek its time that contacted us. But it's kind of an off and on thing. I don't think that they're quite ready to talk about this yet. And I'm not going to drop a name. But by the same token, I will say we'll be here when they're ready. We don't approach families because everybody needs time to grieve. If it's something like this, it's you don't push people. And I believe that. I did, once again, thank you for everybody that showed up to April, Tim, and Dwayne's celebration of life at the Paintsville Lake. We had a great time. I had a great time, and I want to personally thank Arrow Wilson, my son-in-law. We ran him crazy. Or, oh, where you go get this, where you go get that, because things like this, you can never plan them down to a T. You try, you do the best you can, but inevitably things are going to come up. And Arrow was there to handle it. And man, he did it like a pro. Not once did this guy complain. My daughter was there, welcoming people and talking to people. Allie's just friendly by nature. I was roaming around talking to some people I'd known for a while, like Steve, and a few other people. Met a police officer, Officer Prim, great guy, fantastic guy. Met with Jason, met with, of course, April's mom was there, and I was so thrilled. I was happy to see you there, Jason. I was happy to see him. And just met a lot of other people that I didn't know. And then now, I'm very grateful that every single person showed up. Of course, I love always seeing Stacy and Lloyd and just everybody that was there. I'm so grateful that you guys showed up. You're awesome. I did turn out to be, I think, the only bike that showed up, which was okay. April loved bikes, and it was there for her. The ride up was a little chilly, but it was well worth it to honor somebody that I cared about. Yeah, you can tell this is off the cuff. I'm scratching my arm and coughing and all this stuff, but this is just me as I exist peacefully in my own little world in here. I like it here. So Thursday, we're going to have a little more professionalism, I guess, but it will be live. This was recorded on Monday. I think it is. I think it was. Yeah, yesterday, as a matter of fact. But the reason for that is we're putting together part 2 of the Lorraine Warren Into the Shadow, or In the Shadow, or In the Shadows. I'm sorry. Long day. I'm tired. And if you think this first one is good, ooh, we actually give you a little bit of a timeline going into this particular episode, part 1 of this episode. As I like to say, we start where it all started. And that's exactly what we do. And we give you a little history of Ed and Lorraine. Not that it's really needed, because she does so much better at telling her story than I do. So much. It's still hard to believe that she's gone. Wow. It was April 18th, 2019. Same year I lost my parents. She passed away just a month or two after, I guess. So, but the number of people that, and you can make your arguments as to whether they were cons or as to whether they were the real deal or whatever. For my money, I think that their intentions were pure. And when you talk about them going around to the college circles or the speaking circuits and all that, making money off that, and making money off of the admission to the occult museum, which she talks about that too. That's in part 2. Then what I would say is, who am I to deny somebody making a living? They never charged the people for helping them. No. They did charge to speak on the collegiate circuits. They did charge, I think it was 12 or 13 or 14 bucks to enter the occult museum where Annabelle is housed and other things that none of us really want any part of dealing with whatsoever. They did charge for that, but you know what? They had to buy food. They had to keep a roof over their head. They had a daughter to feed. They had to make a living. And I'll be honest with you, if they were alive today, I would be the first one to send them a donation. Simply because, whether some of these places are haunted or not, there are some things sometimes that you can just think it is. It scares the hell out of you. And they were also known to debunk a lot of things too. Watch The Conjuring Part 1, because that really happened. They, when Ed was talking to this family, he said, okay, look, you see this? And they're up in the attic and they grab this water pipe and bam, 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 and it he said, what's happening is when you turn on your water flows, there's pressure in the line, and that pressure kicks and it's knocking on your ceiling rafters. And as far as the wind through the house, and he goes over and he like points out this, crack in the wall or somewhere where wind comes, and that's what it is. So, being a paranormal investigator, from what I can figure, is not, you're not out to prove something. You're not out to prove, okay, this place is haunted. You go in with a clear mind. You go in with a frame of thought of, okay, they're hearing noises. They're hearing sounds. So you do all this stuff. You go through the house. You see, okay, well, I've got a fly problem. Well, yeah, that's because you got a nest of them up here. My walls are rattling and shaking. Well, that's because there's water pipes in there and they're not attached properly. As far as the windows going up and down, those windows that slide up and down automatically, they have things in them called balancers. I know this from a housing manager. But if those balancers are off key, you can hit the window a certain way, and I'll be damned if it won't fly up. It sure will on its own. It's not Casper. All right? It's a balancer. That's all. It's a weighted balancer. And that can happen. By the same token, like I said, in the words of in the words of Ed Warren, the fairy tale is real. The devil is real. God is real. It's real. There are things. I think a lot of times it can be the house that's haunted, but people can also have attachments. And when that happens, it's like stepping on a piece of gum. You're going to carry that crap with you everywhere you go until you find somebody that knows how to get it off. But you're going to learn a lot more than I could ever tell you in this episode or anything else coming from me. I've always told you, I'm the storyteller. I'm special effects. That's all I am. Lorraine Warren, rest her soul, will be telling you these things Friday night. 12:01 a.m. is when the episode drops. Good Lord willing. This is not the first time I've had an interview with a name like that. I had, there was Bill, I think his name was Bill Bean. And a lot of people, including himself, says he's a spiritual warrior. Well, I no sooner had an interview with him and there was all kinds of strange stuff that started happening in my house afterwards. I'm talking about computer issues out of a brand new machine. And I'm going to take this camera and I'm going to move it so you can see. Aside from the stickers and all that, that's a brand new machine. It's about a year old. And probably one of the most, well, it is the most powerful machine that I've ever had. The thing's crazy, wicked fast. But it had to be to do what we do. But it was a machine that was as powerful as this one in its day that just started going loopy. Now, of course, yeah, it's got Microsoft, so God knows, it was Windows XP back then too. So there you go. Yeah, it could have been that, but it was just kind of the timing was hinky. But now I got to admit, when I was doing the Lorraine Warren things, I've not had any trouble. But I also pray and ask for guidance and ask a lot for forgiveness. So anyways, that's going to be happening Friday. I hope to see you guys there. And really hope, Friday, May 14th, part 2 comes Friday, May 21. But the Patreon folks get it a little bit quicker than the other people. So Thursday at 8 o'clock, we'll be back on here. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in detail, about the Lorraine Warren in the Shadow, episode 1 and episode 2. We'll be talking a little bit more about that, and we may have a few other surprises around the corner for you. So I hope that you've enjoyed this little just quick get-together. Hope that you have a great evening and a great week. And Friday at 8 p.m., we'll be talking more about the Mountain Mysteries on the Mountain Mysteries Gathering. Until then, I'm Chris Slone. Stay mysterious.
From one coast to the other, mysteries are everywhere, and we will continue to pursue the answers to those questions and more. Please share, like, and rate the Mountain Mysteries podcast and tell your friends to tune in on Facebook or YouTube. The Mountain Mysteries gatherings are each Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to support the Mountain Mysteries search and help these families, join us on Patreon, or you can make a one-time donation as well. The Mountain Mysteries and the Mountain Mysteries gatherings are property of the Pantry Studios and Chris Slone, who writes and produces the content. If you would like to reach out to the Mountain Mysteries, please email us at pantrystudio@yahoo.com. Until next time, my friends, stay mysterious.
A Pantry Studio production.